Hello gamers and welcome to another YouTube video. We're running towards the ends of the tier 11 reviews, but we still have a few bangers coming up, and today we're starting it off with the Breaker and if it's worth it in World of Tanks. Alright, so the easiest way to explain this tank is when we look at against 340 heat actually, which is what quite a decent amount of tanks have now at tier 10 and tier 11. You can see that in Hulldown, both the Badger and the Breaker share the same trait that, you know, you're not really going to get penned whatsoever, right? I think that's pretty obvious. However, when you start eliminating the angle, you can see that with 340 heat, you're still kind of sucking on a PP at this point. Well, the more flatter it gets, at some point the Badger turns to like cheese on flat ground. The Breaker, however, doesn't really have this. It's a lot harder to get to that point where it will go through you effectively. And also you can see here, this thing that the Badger doesn't have and the Breaker does have is these crazy space armor against heat, right? Of course, if we switch it to like AP, it's still pretty good on the side here. It gets bad towards the back. With the Badger, however, it's full green. So this side is very forgiving. And that's one of the main aspects to pay attention to with a Breaker. It's extremely annoying to shoot at from the side, simply because you always have to aim for really the back of it, or you need to wait until it's fully sideways. But if you're shooting like AP, you almost gotta wait until you see the very end of it. So this is able to bait quite a lot of people into shooting the wrong spots of your armor, and is in general a very forgiving mechanic as well, right? It can get penned through the track still, but in terms of like hold on and lower plate, it's, you know, it's still better than the Badger at that. Has a wider arc, but feeling as well. And yeah, it's mainly that side armor, to be honest. That was the highlight of this. So what is there to say about the Breaker outside of the armor model that we went over? Basically, this is kind of like a Badger without the drawbacks of a Badger, I guess. Personally, I found this tank extremely resident sleeper to play, personally, but I guess for like a more casual player, this may actually be very fun in a way, because, you know, it's very straightforward, very easy, and pretty forgiving as well. The upgrades on this tank actually make quite a big difference though, especially for that turbo mode. You gain like top speed in it, engine power. So the difference between with or without upgrades is really big. In this battle I didn't have full upgrades, and you can see it's honestly not that fast, right? Because I'm missing some engine power, I'm missing the top speed as well. In the later replay, I think in the second one, you'll see the tank with fully upgrades, and you'll pay attention to just the sheer speed difference that it makes. So the ability is very straightforward. You drive forward, you get a turbo out of it. You reverse, the turbo stops. Unbelievable. It's very difficult. But I found the best way to play this tank for me is to kind of torpedo some enemies and play off of that. Because usually when you get pretty close to them, they really struggle to actually go through your armor. So I think at some point I decided, well, I'm just gonna go head first into enemies and play the Hulldowns. Wanna push the KR1 away from the Hulldown, but he's not interested. But however, we do start farming him. We have a 50B in support as well. And you can see they are struggling to hit these lower plates, which is honestly not that big. And especially guns like KR1 will be missing it. But you can see me just dog straight into them and going for it. Especially because if I can push this guy back further, I can arrive to the Hulldown here, where I am now, and just kind of play against him. I'm waiting here to get a track shot on him. That's why you see me shoot the moment that he turns, is the moment that I shoot him as well. And he's in trouble, right? His friend was in trouble, he's even more in trouble. But the good thing about this battle is it's 2-0, but they were actually down in HP, which means that more likely than not, this will end up being a pretty decent game. And that one didn't pen. It must be a pen low roll, I think, for it not to pen. But the ability of this tank, you know, that turbocharger, one, it sounds pretty good. Second of all, it does help you pretty significantly to relocate around the map. While at the same time, of course, you can't be on turbo mode and fight, because the bloom just to too big for that. So in this battle, Mountain Pass, when you look at the positions, you know that you will lose 1-2 line, more likely than not. You will lose 9-0 line slowly. But driving to 1-2 line is basically impossible at this point. It's too late. But I am still on time to get back into the base and face the guys that are pushing down the 9-0 line, especially because it's like Type 5 heavy, Dakillzor, 1-1B, you know, not the world's fastest times. And if you're the 140 and the ST2 in this scenario, the 140 driving down is crazy work, to be honest. Like, it's actually crazy. The ST2 should also be fallen back to base. On Mountain Pass, the best way to approach the game at some point is to simply go sit back in your own base and play from that point on. It just works out. Potentially, in this game, I would have done a lot more if I had fully upgraded the tank from the beginning, though. But you can definitely see the difference. Or I can definitely tell the difference myself after playing fully upgraded and non-fully upgraded. But how much more comfortable the engine is, or the turbo is, when it has been fully upgraded. So we're going for some shots here against the Dakillzor. We do hit that turret face. And we're pretty Hulldown. We do want to kill the 1-1B just to delete a gun out of this. We end up not going for it. Type 5 heavy. This moment it turns the turret slightly. Just shoot it to the side. At least if you're not shooting poor person's ammo. We got a little bit of farm out of this. And, you know, at what it's supposed to do, which is sit in position and farm, it's not that bad, to be honest. Looking for a penny here, not getting it. May end up costing us, but yeah. Anyways, minus 5k, but you can see the big problem for this team is actually the ST2, the 140, and the patent tourists going under into the river for some mysterious reason. And that honestly is a pretty shit play from them. Now with the Dakillzor on reload, I decide to peek and go for it on the 1-1B. I do get the shot. He's not able to shoot me back. Looking at the upper plate, because just with the mouse, if he's facing your way and you're above, it's a pretty straightforward pen onto that upper plate, into that fuel tank as well. But at his angle, not that simple whatsoever. Just going over the ammo types. I mean, pretty good velocity, pretty good pen across the board. Couldn't be bouncing too much. But now we know it's 6-10. We see the Type 5 cross. That's an unfortunate miss, to be honest. That's actually an unfortunate miss, but luckily he peeks out with a Strack. Gives us a shot on that one. It would be very important to kill him for the battle itself. Want to clear an angle. Find the kill on the Dakillzor. And now behind us, you can see the problem is this IS-7. Honestly, we probably should have moved towards this side here, because the IS-7 simply re-peeks that. And I wasn't willing to turn around simply because if I turn around fully, they are able to shoot me. So I didn't really want to end up doing that to deny the Theater 3 or the Type a chance of killing me. Another miss on the Type 5. And he's starting to shoot HE, which is pretty bad, because he can kill us in about 3 shots with that. And yeah, taking that into consideration, it's getting a little tough, and that's mainly due to that IS-7 getting those 2 free shots. We find a shot against the Theater 3, so it's a nice 8.9 already. And the Type 5 hits with HE once more. 102 this time, which lowers us to a potential 1-shot for the Type 5 heavy. And I think at this point, we end up missing the Type 5 yet again. Looking for the cupola, not able to connect. We'll find a kill against the Theater 3 because he's hanging out. And I can't really tell you why I'm still peeking at this point, except for maybe greed. And I missed the Type 5 once more with a full HP mouse, or relatively full HP of 2.5k. This was definitely a thrown 10k. But at the same time, you could say maybe the Type 5 should have died already. Either way, I think it's a good showcase of playing the tank in a way that's pretty optimal for your battle as well, and what to do in Mountain Pass. So, as I said, this battle is a bit later. And this battle is with fully upgraded breaker. And you'll be able to tell the big difference there in the turbo. There's some really big turbo upgrades for this one. That will make your life a lot easier if you do decide to get this tank. Like if you want to be boring and play something that just sits in a Hulldown. You know, like This is really what I would call the old man's tank, you know? Drive it into a position, sit there, and at least you don't have to worry about the enemy team penning you, so you can focus on your like non-existent aiming skills to try and do some damage with it. I don't know. It's honestly not a recommended tank unless you're really into the big old boring gameplay, which is exactly what this tank is, boring, to be honest. It's luckily enough not as dumb as a can opener, but you know, like it's just a block of armor that you put in a Hulldown, and if you're facing it, you just don't engage it. It's in terms of game design, it's 10 out of 10. But if you actually want to do something though with the tank and get some good results, then you sometimes have to channel your inner dog. And that's what I'm doing in this battle. You can see the turbo there much better, much more efficient as well than the battle number 1. That's simply because of all the upgrades. And now the enemy team can suck on a wiener, basically. As you know, I've arrived to my Hulldown position and they can't really do anything to me. So yeah, like I said, this tank is kind of brain dead design and brain dead gameplay. So if that's your kind of thing, then you know you're gonna love this tank, right? For general performance and fun, I think best to recommend something else. But you know, when it does get to position and when it does get to play Hulldown like that, it is potent, kind of like the Badger, you know. Personally prefer the Tortoise. Haven't really played it after the nerf though, but you know, just the way that the Tortoise can play aggressive is much more convenient than both the Breaker and the Badger, even though the Breaker already has a wider gun arc nonetheless. It still isn't quite the same feeling as the Tortoise. Luckily, we've got that forgiving side armor as well, which is honestly the most annoying part about this tank, together with, you know, of course, the fact that you can't pin it in a Hulldown, is that that side armor is actually very trolly, very good against heat. Good shoot in there from the 257. But yeah, on this battle, you know, we pushed across, we took the big risk. We could have died on this crossing as well, but we did not die on the crossing, and therefore we are getting a little bit of farm out as well. Sadly missing that one, though, nonetheless. The Emil not able to pen us. I'm not sure how much they can see of our tank, but I'm pretty sure it's not too much, to be honest. Sadly, we can't really charge onto the other breaker simply because, well, you know, there's an Emil too, and he will clip us fully on the side if it comes down to it. Trying to get some random shots, not succeeding. The can opener is honestly very annoyingly positioned. I don't think he's doing much, but he's in a position that also doesn't really allow us to peek or go forward. Trying to shot there against Emil too. Not succeeding at it whatsoever. So if there was no can opener, then maybe we could do a little bit more, but my team is pressuring A-line at the very least. And the Breaker getting pressured from behind as well. You can see that the extra gun arc compared to the Badger does help out a little bit in terms of comfort and ease of usage as well. Take one from the can opener because we push slightly too far forward. Not really able to get shots on the Emil, but with the RHM going to A5, we want to get ready to shoot the balcony. We see the AV aiming our way. I'm not really afraid of him penning us, to be honest, because I don't think it's going to happen. Sadly, he gives us 867 instead, which shows you that he doesn't need to pen to be annoying, which is great because now you're one-shot all of the tanks there. Luckily enough, on range, all of those guns are really going to struggle penning you. That was a hit against the Yak Tiger. That was a pen against the Yak Tiger as well. So, you know, like in terms of design, like the armor, like I said, you know, frontally, it's going to hold up very nicely. The ability of the turbo is pretty nicely done for comfort. If you're playing something slow like this, because sometimes, you know, you don't want to be driving for 5 minutes, you want to be driving only for 3 minutes. And if it does get to brawl, it's pretty decent as well. Downside, of course, pretty low to the ground, which makes a lot of positions annoying to play. Yeah, we're a little greedy there. Trying to go for the 4005 pen instead. Don't end up getting that because he's only showing a very small amount of armor. Now we're looking for the Emil. And here you can see that extra gun arc, of course, is also pretty nice just for those small little peaks, but still, in general, can't say that when I was playing this tank and looking for YouTube replays, I found too much enjoyment or excitement into playing this. Like, I feel like when I was playing this, my brain was just not on most of the time, because it doesn't require your brain to be on, which probably contributes to that fact altogether. But you can see that even with this kind of a TD, a little bit more aggressive gameplay in battle number 1 and battle number 2 may be the way to go if you want to actually get the maximum out of a vehicle like this. And, you know, at least it's easy to understand, right? And easy to play. So that's what I'm saying. For like the casual player, this might totally be their thing because of, you know, just how easy it is to understand what you need to do. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to understand what you need to do, and especially fully upgraded with that, with those big upgrades to the turbo, is very nice. Especially that top speed, also helping out towards a more enjoyable experience. So we definitely recommend checking out those upgrades if you do end up getting this. And we do finish it off with a nice shot on the Badger, on the Sakal below the TNH. Nice 8.8, not a 10k, but you know, nonetheless. So, last game on the Breaker, because I think the first two battles already definitely showed its capabilities, both fully upgraded and non-fully upgraded. This is again non-fully upgraded, aka no upgrades at all. And just pay attention to, you know, the turbo and how long it really takes to pick up. That's why I said already that on this tank, the upgrades make a quite big difference, to be honest. And are very nice to have, just because of like the amount of time it takes for the turbo to activate, the top speed difference, the engine power difference. It's honestly just a really big change that you can get out of the upgrades, especially just for general comfort. Anyway, we get a battle on Erlenberg. We're gonna be using that turbo to get into position. And we're going to be crossing to E6, which is a very standard position. You know, we have a Taschenrate and an E100 that are going city. So you could assume that they're going to be occupying the 5 line while I move towards the Hulldown. And you do have to keep in mind when you're going for that Hulldown, you are very used to playing the one on the right-hand side. However, the one on the right-hand side, I think it's a bit too high for the Breaker. That's going to be an annoying thing when you play this tank as well, is that it's so low to the ground that some positions just don't work. So where the tier 3 is, I don't think that would be very easy to play there properly without exposing your track. So I would go inside anyways. But like I said, when playing this tank, I channeled my inner best way to play is to go forward into them and just fight them, because they're not going to be hitting my cupola if I'm face hugging. At least not something like an IS-7. And you can see the IS-7's probably very sad about what's happening, and you know, we're cleaning that up rather nicely. So that's a quick 1.5k for doing, again, not very much, just dogging into an IS-7. And yeah, I think at this point in the session I was of the mind of I'm just gonna push them every single battle and see what sticks. At some point it's gonna work out. And yeah, we shield with our gun there as well against the tier 3. He's having a bad time. The IS-7 had a bad time. He's very like sad about what he just witnessed. I don't know if he's tall enough to shoot the cupola. I don't think so. So in face hug, I don't really know what he sees, but it's definitely not lower played. I don't think it's cupola either. So the only thing that's left for him to do is I roll over and die at that point, because he can't really escape either. So went into the IS-7, went into the tier 3. This is where the low profile actually an advantage. So low to the ground that I can shoot the mouse lower plate. It's very... I mean, I don't know many tanks that are capable of doing this in a face hug. I think this is where we make kind of a mistake. We end up taking the 760 from the Taschenrate to reverse out, you know, the AUX guns and his main gun. That was pretty bad, honestly. But, you know, nonetheless, this aggressive gameplay working out pretty decently. Trying to get him to bounce, shielding with the gun. not penning in return. Touch rather quite a bit harder to play against in close range than the mouse. Bouncing that one as well. Not the greatest of performances. Swinging the bat shot, and I talked already about side armor on this tank. And that's one of the things that is going to be very forgiving in your battles as well. It's just like the general side armor is very, very, very thick on this tank. Against both heat and APCR. Mainly against heat though, because there's a tremendous amount of space armor all around. And that will help you, of course, with those peaks as well. That's something that the Badger, for example, doesn't have. Neither does the Tortoise. At the moment you see the side of the Badger, you can pen the side of the Badger. So if you compare those two, then with that you have a big advantage over the two tanks that are coming before in the line. Is this an upgrade over the Badger? Probably. I mean, there's nothing really that the Badger does better than this, to be honest. Like, the armor of this is better than the Badger. The lower plate is better. It doesn't have the boobas. Has the extra added turbo ability, which does help and is comfortable. So, is it an upgrade? Sure. Is it an upgrade in the gameplay? Probably not, to be honest. Like, from all the tier 11s that I've played, this one was one more, like, honestly, probably the most boring one so far. Then again, I haven't played Leopard 120 and Hirschkaffer yet though, but those are still coming up. Can't wait to play Hirschkaffer. It's going to be tremendous. I'm going to make a great review about the tank as well. Dominating performances, just like in this one with an 8.2. Let's round up. But, you know, you see the tank works, right, at the end of the day, at something specific. But there's going to be a lot of scenarios where it doesn't work.